Investing to support digital entrepreneurs from our oldest living cultures empowers global impact. Australia has over 12,000 Indigenous businesses generating more than $2 billion annually. An Indigenous-owned business is 100 times more likely to hire Indigenous employees, benefiting the local economy where the businesses are founded. First Nations people have been at the forefront of invention and creativity as the first peoples of this land. However, despite their sustainable practices and innovation, communities face increasing challenges in the digital economy.
We need more Indigenous businesses to focus on those future economies to be sustainable, and we need to be inclusive around access to those opportunities where we can build our businesses up to recruit more of our people and our future generations who are going to be our future leaders.
So the Indigenous business sector is growing tenfold, and we've seen that since 2016 when the Indigenous procurement policy was first implemented to where it is today, and we see about 15 to 17,000 Indigenous businesses. But one of the big challenges, as I've mentioned, is around that access to capital.
Collaboration, capability building and capital, obviously, they're gaps, and gaps we need to talk about and gaps we need to fill somehow, and we need to sort of all work together on how we address those. Hearing stories from exceptional entrepreneurs on what they're doing so that they then look up to them and say, we could be doing something similar.
I like that saying of you can't be what you can't see, and it's so true. I remember when I was younger and I didn't see a lot of Indigenous women doing business, if at all, really. And me being in construction, that's a whole nother ballgame. So I'm very proud of that award of Accelerating Women. With just being a finalist, so thank you for mentioning that.
So to see Aboriginal people being out there in the business world and trying to create intergenerational wealth is very exciting and liberating. Being sitting next to these people, it's very empowering to see it can be done.
The First Nations X Pathway project can help unlock the full potential of Indigenous entrepreneurship. To secure Australia's future prosperity, First Nations X supports sustainable economic growth, creates jobs, and strengthens bilateral relations. It's an uplifting journey with national impact. Of particular note are commitments to clean energy and environmental solutions, Australian Mets, Agri-Tech and Agri-Food, all areas where First Nations business have strong competitive potential.
There's a growing sophistication of what we are capable of with understanding how do we fit as Indigenous businesses into the future. So specifically from the mining area, we see a lot of that demand for value chain transparency. So how do we respond to that as Indigenous people? Definitely more conversations at a global level around value chain.
What we're seeing now is the expansion of First Nation businesses. We're not being pigeonholed.
Blackline Industries is also operated by the Indigenous Shared Services Group, and they're a group that co-invest, pool and share resources to ensure that Aboriginal individuals can continue to create a self-determining economic future.
My grandmother, and I think with a lot of the people on here would agree, and the Indigenous community, that the women in our families are the matriarchs. You follow the women line, so they're very important to us. And when I lost my nana that time, a lot of wisdom. You lose a lot of wisdom whenever you lose an elder. So she was a huge impact on where I am today.
The sessions that we were doing literally taught us to use our ask muscle, because as women, we don't usually ask stuff. We do stuff for other people, and as Indigenous women, we are always nurturing our communities, and so going into a workspace, you're always looking out for everyone else. And I think structurally, that's how my business had been set up.
For those Indigenous businesses that are involved in engineering or construction or in the mining sector can have an opportunity to play a role in space research.
Having that investment opportunity, the capital is really key, but it's the relationships that are more important. The relationships, the discipline, the mentoring, the support, the advice that can be provided. But someone that has done this before, that can provide experience, which I think is really key.
So I think talking together, understanding where our North Star is, understanding what the actual priorities are, what's at risk here. You know, when we're thinking about survival, right? When you're thinking about Indigenous peoples in this energy transition, the fear of the risk of not being left behind. You know, those are some of the things that we really need to be informed with. And I think talking together as not only just First Nations people, but also making sure that information from both the federal level, from the government side, but also from the corporate side as well, that we're feeding into a bit of a library of education or knowledge where we can continually add to as well. So I think, yes, talking to each other is important, and then ensuring that everyone agrees on how we're moving forward together. But at the same time, of course, ensuring that that time pressure and that time bound is also identified as well.
We've seen technological advances in the last few years that have just been astronomical in terms of their reach. It is important, though, that every Western Australian, regardless of whether you live in the city or remote community, gets to benefit from this new economy that we're in. And I think the digital economy will also provide similar opportunities for people in remote communities to be able to use digital connectivity to create businesses, to partner with people, to sell their art, to showcase their country and their culture. Just provides an amazing opportunity.
Everything's possible. Look out there, see what the conditions are like, see what things might be building, what might be breaking, but you have to kind of see what's coming and get yourself there. People can now build mass audiences from anywhere.
First Nations X leverages a number of collaborators.
The promise of technology was that it was supposed to be this great equalizer. By pulling together different First Nations people in ways like First Nations X, where you're having these different countries get together, I think this is the right approach. One of the things that I like the most about that program is, again, you're not talking about, we're going to come in and help you. What you're talking about is, what do you need to get you the right resources that are necessary?
If you get the right opportunity when that wave is coming, then you can see real successes. And whenever we can get Indigenous people, people from regional areas to participate, it just increases the richness so much more.
Indigenous businesses are 100% more likely to employ Indigenous people. They're also more likely to reinvest back into community. And so if you think about that as an impact thesis, then you know that by scaling Indigenous businesses, we're also creating employment opportunities, we're also creating greater investment or self-sustaining investment back into communities.
We're looking for businesses that have high Indigenous impact. I think now's the time that we can make the most of this convergence and really make change for the next generation coming through.